another one, and sadly this is not a one-time story. This is a repetitive story. So this is the if only. If only I had noticed there was a long, confidential, and inflammatory thread or stream in the email chain that I forwarded to my seller and his attorney. Now, why do I mention this? Technology. It is a boon to our business. It is a curse to us because it allows for many, many mistakes to be made. So very often we receive emails and we respond to those emails and we begin a dialogue back and forth. So let's say it's Jeff and I, and we're talking about something, and I send the email, and we have a specific subject that we're discussing. And then he changes the subject. He comes back with something else that's in his mind he wants to consult with me on. And we go back and forth, and maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 emails. Have we ever done that? Now, something in the most recent email is relevant to maybe something I'd like to discuss with Jeff Culbertson, our boss. And I want to send that most recent email, but instead of cutting and pasting just that, I forward the whole stream. And now everything that Jeff and I have talked about of a confidential nature is now sitting in someone else's inbox. And that can be very dangerous. In particular, in our real estate transactions where you are discussing things potentially with your seller that are of a highly confidential nature, maybe the most recent email is something you want the buyer's agent to see, and then you forward it without thinking of everything that went before it. So we've got to really think about how we use email. Email has become the standard business communication. I don't know how many of you write real letters anymore and put them in the mail, but I don't. I don't. I would say that 98% of my communication is email oriented. And for that reason, what we must do is begin to craft our emails like the business correspondence that it is. It shouldn't have acronyms. It shouldn't start with OMG or LOL or WTF. It shouldn't start with things like that. I was in an arbitration when one of the emails from our side was produced as evidence that started with WTF to a client. Well, I had to ask too. I didn't know what WTF was. So I had to ask her a recess until I knew it. Say, what is it? I can't say it if you're filming this. It's bad. Okay, so we want to craft our emails in a professional manner and remember that they are business correspondence and they live forever. They live forever in your hard drive. They are there. And then I've had people say, oh, well, Kathy, I know forensic folks that can come in and delete everything from my hard drive. And I say, well, really? What about all the people you sent it to? Are those people going to go to their offices and their homes too and delete it from their hard drives? You think? No. I'm thinking not so much. So these emails are forever, and that's how we have to treat them, as business correspondence written professionally, because they do come back to haunt us if we're not careful with it. So be very cautious. Also, when you're hitting reply to all, please understand that you are not only replying to everyone who you visibly see is copied, but also those that may be blind copied on the correspondence. So there could be someone blind copied that you weren't meant to know about, and your reply might not be appropriate for that person who's been blind copied on the email. So be very thoughtful about forwarding, be very thoughtful about reply to all, but most importantly, be very thoughtful about what you write. Be very cognizant that we should be writing this correspondence in a business manner. That's what's most important for me to share with you. The other thing is, try very hard to keep your subject line relevant. Because what I've noticed, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm very fine that it's being recorded, and I'll admit it. I'm the first one to admit guilt. After all, I was in the convent. That's how I was raised. Guilty. This is what we do. But here's the thing. I'll start a conversation. Maybe Ariel and I are talking about a particular transaction, and that's the subject line, but then we shift gears. We should be shifting our subject line. We should be starting a new email. We should be making sure that our subject line remains relevant to the discussion that we are having, and in particular when it's a client that we're talking to, or an attorney, or a business manager, or the escrow, or the title, or the loan officer. We should make sure that our subject line remains relevant to the conversation at hand. And that's very important. And the final thing, for me anyway, if you're emailing me, do not write to me in all caps. It is yelling. It is totally yelling. And I get enough stress in my life. And there are folks who write to me in all caps, and I find it most offensive, and I will tend not to answer those. Or I will email, stop yelling. Like I say to my niece and nephew, use your inside voice, please. Right? And that's what I would say to you if you write to me in all caps. Use your inside voice, please. And the other thing, I don't see any reason that you would write to anyone using red. Why would you write a business correspondence in red? Red is mean. Red is angry. I get emails from people that are in red. I don't want them. I don't want that. It's not fun for me. So that's just kind of an annoying thing. And then from a business perspective, do you really want your emails in 4 or 5 colors? I see agents writing one paragraph's in green and the next one's in blue and then one's in black. This is not Christmas decorating. This is a business correspondence, okay? So make sure that you keep your color in a professional mode. So I like black, I like blue, that's fine. But when you get into the purples and pinks and all that, I don't think there's a place for that. Unless you got your logo branded at the bottom with some color, and that's a little bit different. But just be thoughtful and sensitive. So that's kind of important.